بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So let's see some more forms of attacks you generally see. There are different types of attacks. So probably I'll be going through with some of the overview of the possible attacks, some theoretical concepts on that. As I said, the web-based is the most common traffic on the internet, and also it's a common channel from where most of the attacks can happen. So based on many security reports, and especially most of the HTTP traffic, like a lot of applications work still on HTTP, and it is not secure. Of course, you have most of the websites, even Google, Yahoo runs on HTTPS in today's network. So even you are trying to access some kind of Facebook video calling, even there are many applications they use browsers, or they used web-based traffic. Even if you're using any kind of meeting softwares, they probably work on web-based. So either you want to restrict specific applications, or you want to ensure that when the web traffic is going, that should be secure. It doesn't contain any kind of malicious codes, or you want to restrict specific URLs or the websites. So let's try to see the typical kind of attacks. Like one of the basic kind of attack on a web will be like the attacker. So probably let's say you have an attacker is going to compromise with a specific website. Like let's say there is a website with a name called www.xyz.com. So basically this is a valid website, maybe hosted by some company. Now the attacker is going to gain access and insert some kind of malicious code into that particular website. So let's say you have some kind of malicious code added to that particular website. So attacker breaks into the website and posts some kind of malwares. Okay, so now what happens is whenever a user is trying to access that website, also these malicious codes may get installed into the user website without the knowledge, and the malicious activity happens at the backend, and that will that ensures that the user system or the specific network is compromised, and there's a possibility that attacker may gain access or get some information, or maybe that malicious code can actually corrupt your information, something like that. So basically this is a kind of typical web-based attack, and there are different ways actually it happens. So I have listed some of the names here. Like there are different ways the attacks can happen. In that some of them are like, the first one you can see there is something called SQL injection attacks. Now this is specifically where the attacker intention is to get access to the database, where it works with something like the attacker is going to find some kind of flaws in the websites that has a database. Like let's say you are trying to access this website here, and that website also have some customer details to enter. Like if you visit our page on the contact details, we also have this kind of portal where you will be asked to enter your name, email, these kind of details, which will be again stored in the backend database. Now, if this particular web page, if it is poorly designed with some kind of lesser security options, then basically this can allow, because the attacker is going to inject some kind of attack onto the server, onto the specific web server, and the attacker may gain access to that particular database. So this kind of attack is specially used by the attacker to gain access to the database. So this is one kind of attack. There are other options like malicious advertisements. Now most of the websites, when you visit, you will see some kind of advertisements generally displayed. We call them as mal advertisements. That's what mal advertisements. So basically they will be displayed on the websites hosted by third-party advertisement sites generally. And whenever the attacker actually uses some kind of online advertising to spread those malware, so basically it can be one of the ad from the attacker. So when you click on that particular link, it will redirect to some specific website, and at the back end it may automatically install some kind of malwares, or those things can happen in the backend. So the other options like drive by download. Now this is a kind of option where you generally download some kind of softwares at the backend. So whenever you browse any specific website, it allows you to download some kind of .exe files or some kind of executable files at the backend, which are automatically downloaded onto the user computer without your knowledge or without your permission normally. And that again injects some kind of malwares into your network or into your specific computer again. And some other options like software vulnerabilities. Now this is specifically if you have some kind of bugs in your applications or on your web browsers, probably using some kind of older web browsers, or even it can be on your web server as well. So the attacker is going to use that particular kind of vulnerability or some kind of bugs to use that information, probably to introduce some kind of attacks here. So basically this will again lead to like downloading some kind of malicious codes, or corrupting some kind of files, or crashing the applications. This all includes in that. Like some of the examples, you'll find some kind of, whenever you visit a website, it says, your Adobe Flash Player is not up to date, or this software is not up to date, or even when you're trying to access some kind of multimedia sites or gaming sites, or even sometimes it will ask you to download this document viewer or PDF viewer to view this file, something like that. So probably you'll observe these things when you are browsing. Generally, you will see these kind of things. So there are other options like attacks on the backend virtual hosting companies as well, at the backend. And also there is something called search engine result redirection kind of thing. Now this typically happens where you use some kind of search engine. It can be anything like Google or Yahoo or whatever the search engine you're using. So basically you search with a specific keywords, you will find some kind of URLs listed. So when you click on this particular URL, so basically this says it actually to specific website. It displays actually here. It shows you some kind of URL website, but actually at the back end, it is not that particular URL. If you observe here, basically that points to some kind of different URL. So this is not come from Google. You'll see the name as similar one, 00EE dot something like Google, something like that. So basically you have to observe this as well. We call this as search engine result redirection. So basically that will list some URLs, and when you click on these URLs, they redirect to that website, which contains some kind of malicious code. So you need to be careful with that as well. Apart from that, you also have one more option like cross-site scripting attacks. Now this is basically kind of malicious scripts which are injected to the trusted websites. Like you have, this is a trusted website, let's say xyz.com. So the attacker is going to inject some kind of script onto that website. So whenever this user is trying to access that particular web application or website through the whenever this user is trying to access that, so basically the security is compromised. So whatever the cookie information or whatever the information will be passed on to the attacker. So these are some of the different types of attacks may happen. Even there are plenty. If you see, there are a lot of attacks which are web based. So I've just listed few of them as a quick overview. What are the different types of threats or the attacks you can see on through web based in general. So like if you just visit these URLs, you'll find some information in the report from Cisco which list different types of attacks which are coming from what are the biggest sources. Like nowadays you see a 58% nowadays, even the cloud infrastructure. These are all the examples, and you can see the graphs and the different types of attacks, the ratios and the sample counts, all the statistics.